Yo, what's up guys, welcome back to another video. This is a reaction to Wendover Productions, and the video is the US military's massive global transportation system. We do like reactions to this channel. I do just find this channel quite interesting with some of the videos that it does, and I mean, yeah, I just saw this pop up and I thought it could be an interesting little thing to watch. But yeah, let's jump into this. Hopefully you're going to enjoy. Links are in the description to my Patreon if you want to see some more reactions of mine from the past 2 years now. It's been going for a long time, and yeah, if you want to suggest me some things that I can't react to on YouTube, that's also the place to do that. And just all that kind of stuff. But yeah, the links are all there. And let's just jump into this Wendover Productions video.
The United States Department of Defense is the world's largest employer. Full stop. Between active duty troops, civilian staffers, and National Guard personnel, nearly 3 million employees sit on its roster, but uniquely, these staff work all around the world on a rotating basis. The global nature of the
It must be one of those jobs, being in like the military in general, but I feel like the US military, obviously, because the US military are everywhere, or they have bases everywhere. It must be one of the most well-traveled jobs. Like you have bases near me. You have bases all over Europe, probably not all over Asia, but in lots of places in Asia, Australia, in South America, North America as well, obviously, because that's where the US is. And I mean, yeah, Africa. Yeah, everywhere. I've just named every continent. I wouldn't be surprised if they had a secret base on Antarctica, honestly. But yeah, it must be one of the most, well, it is. It has to be the most traveled job possible.
The best funded military necessitates a transportation network rivaling legitimate, well-known
I guess this is what's showing us then. Wait, this isn't bases, because there's way more bases than this.
airlines and ocean shipping companies, yet exclusively used and experienced by those 3 million or so individuals employed by the US DoD. The core of the passenger system is based here. BWI Airport between Baltimore, Maryland, and the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. This is the busiest hub for the military's so-called Patriot Express airline. Nearly nightly, a flight leaves to either Thule Air Base Greenland, Ramstein Air.
Greenland? See, I'd be so scared. I've like got the idea of like landing somewhere where it's so cold. It must be a scary experience, because I'm just thinking the runway's slidey and like icy and stuff, but obviously it's gonna be fine. They probably heat, well, they heat it up. They probably got under floor heating or whatever it is. I don't know, but they keep it good. But in my head, it's just like makes me cringe. Plus, it's so far away from everything.
Air Base Germany, Incirlik Air Base Turkey, Kuwait International Airport, or Al Udeid Air Base Qatar. Passengers, typically DoD personnel, or if relocating to a base that allows families, their spouses and children, check in at desks just as they do flying United, Delta, or American, but with an extra early cutoff of 2 hours and 20 minutes before departure. They then head through regular security and go to a regular gate in Terminal E. Next, they board through a regular jet bridge onto an aircraft operated by a member of a unique collection of airlines. The scale of air passenger demand by the DoD is significant enough that whole charter airlines have arisen that are significantly, if not entirely financially reliant on operating Patriot Express flights on behalf of the government. Alice Air, National Airlines, and Omni Air International among them. With the goal of minimizing travel costs for the DoD, but also enabling staff outside of combat zones to travel home more frequently on a discretionary basis, the Patriot Express program lowers the relative distance between American military bases and the mainland United States and vice versa, even to the extent of allowing a wider range of pets on board than commercial airlines. The military enables this relative connectivity by operating a space available system. People who need to travel to get to or from their deployments get guaranteed seats booked in advance. But for staff who just want to travel for non-job reasons, they can have any seat left on a flight for free just by adding their name to a list.
Damn, that sounds like a pretty good deal, and it's probably very, well, it's not probably, it's very fair for the roles that they do.
Via website or app, then showing up to the airport on the day of its departure, hoping for the best. A priority system is used to rank house hunting trips, for example, as more important than the travel of retired but still Space A eligible veterans, and any available seats are allocated based on this order. The system is regularly used for discretionary travel originating both from staff stationed abroad and vice versa. There are entire blogs and YouTube channels dedicated to advising eligible Space A travelers as to the best techniques and strategies for using the system for vacations. Military families regularly start their summer Europe trips by taking a Southwest flight to BWI, then hoping for the best while waiting to see if they cleared the list for the evening's flight to Ramstein Air Base. And once they successfully make it to the other side of the Atlantic, another surprisingly accommodating venture of the DoD awaits them, the Ramstein Inn. Sitting directly opposite the airbase's polished glass passenger terminal, the towering hotel, operated by the DoD's Air Force Services Agency, offers hundreds of rooms at reasonable rates only to eligible current or former DoD personnel and invited guests. It's part of a large global collection of hospitality sites offered by the United States Department of Defense.
That's so interesting. So is this the place where it's like the little US town in Germany? It's like obviously it's in Germany, but it's like all like US restaurants and stuff. I still find that so crazy. I think it is this one, the Ramstein one. It's like US shops, US takeaway places. It's just like a little US town in Germany. Is this the place? I think it might be.
The military operates a network of similar hotels on their bases, and some purely recreational sites even exist to offer personnel at home, but especially abroad, low-cost and American-styled rest and relaxation opportunities. Nestled in the outskirts of Naples, Italy, for example, a mere 30-minute drive from the 8,000 personnel-strong Naval Support Activity Complex, sits a recreation wonderland nestled in the hollow of a dormant volcano.
What?
Upon driving through the narrow gates, the view opens up to an approximate recreation of a well-appointed American park, featuring an Olympic-sized swimming pool, a spattering of picnic pavilions, camping sites, and rental cabins, a collection of softball, baseball, football, soccer, basketball, volleyball, tennis, and
This is so... I love seeing this stuff. It's like, it's just so weird to me.
paintball fields and courts, and a wooded 9-hole golf course with a pro shop and clubhouse. A
God
picturesque
damn.
slice of Italy available exclusively
This is beautiful though. In the middle of a flipping dormant volcano. That is insane.
to military-aligned Americans. But the Patriot Express is just one aspect of the massive, global U.S. defense transportation system. The DoD ties its assets and systems together with the United States Transport Command, headquartered at Scott Air Force Base in Illinois. Under its banner and co-located on the same base is Air Mobility Command, a major command of the U.S. Air Force. Now, Air Mobility Command does hold a massive fleet of hundreds of C-5, C-17, and C-130s, and while these aircraft and their crew regularly train, provide humanitarian assistance, and move some cargo through the US's global network of bases during peacetime, they primarily exist for the eventuality of battlefield use. They're not there to move regular pallets from Dover to Ramstein, they're there to move critical life-or-death supplies into a war zone. For the more day-to-day job of supplying the DoD's global footprint, the military mostly relies on commercial cargo airlines, some of which, such as Atlas Air, are the exact same as those operating Patriot Express flights. But to earn the right to this business, US-flagged airlines sign up to participate in the Civil Reserve Air Fleet. Dozens of the country's largest airlines have committed 40% of their fleets to the program, meaning should the need arise, these aircraft and 4 crews each would be fully dedicated to military service.
Says prioritize.
While the bulk of the 450 aircraft would only ever be called up in a rare full-scale mobilization of the US military, smaller capacity crunches have arisen throughout the years that have necessitated the use of the air fleet. The fleet was first activated to transport massive numbers of troops to and from theater during the opening of the Gulf and Iraq wars, and then was used for a third time to accommodate the massive numbers of refugees airlifted out of Kabul during the final days of America's withdrawal from Afghanistan. The very aircraft that carried the general public each and every day to, from, and within the US were sent as far as Al Udeid Air Base in Qatar to transport evacuees to intermediary stops at American bases in Europe, and eventually the US, where other short-haul Civil Reserve Air Fleet aircraft shuttled them to their final destinations within the country. In exchange for prioritizing their fleet for whatever the DoD deems necessary, these same airlines get priority in receiving a portion of the hundreds of millions of dollars in annual DoD passenger and cargo transportation contracts. But air cargo needs in peacetime are relatively minimal because little is regularly time-sensitive enough to justify its additional cost over more traditional means of freight transport. The key with this system, and nearly all aspects of the defense transportation system, is that it's designed around the recognition that, at any moment, the world could change in a way that necessitates, or at least leads to, a massive mobilization of the US military, and therefore a massive mobilization of its people and supplies. When that does occur, the DoD largely leans on the full capacity of its Patriot Express operators, the Civil Reserve Air Fleet, and its own aircraft to get fighters to the front lines. But getting soldiers to far-flung conflict areas is only half the battle. They need supplies, and moving everything from trucks and ammunition to bedrolls and toilet paper across the world by air is anything but efficient.
Yeah.
So rather than shipping an armored Humvee from South Bend, Indiana to Kabul, Afghanistan, or a tank part from Lima, Ohio to Camp Carroll,
They do it from the closest base, right? It's just a lot easier.
South Korea, members of the armed forces simply pull them from a regional stockpile that has been carefully built up and positioned years in advance. One of the earliest advantages a country can gain in a conflict is control of the skies, as this can help protect and optimize operations on the ground. Therefore, setting up a functional in-theater airbase is high in the order of operations, which is why the Basic Expeditionary Airfield Resources Program exists. An airbase involves a lot more than a runway, but thanks to the BEAR program, the US Air Force can quickly build one out of just a runway. Once that's acquired, either peacefully or through force, the military can start flying in BEAR resources from their storage locations around the world on standard C-17 cargo planes. These resources are all pre-packaged and ready for transport so they can go out at a moment's notice and are specifically designed for rapid aircraft transport. Each package of resources is roughly designed to accommodate 250 people, so that if the base is going to accommodate around 1,000 personnel, for example, they just have to multiply the basic configuration by 4. Resources are organized into unit type codes, or UTCs, that group individual supplies based on their intended use. For example, a BEAR deployment's foundational configuration includes the XFA-14 Combat Air Force's initial UTC, which is composed of 8 small shelters, 8 medium shelters, 8 25 kilowatt power distribution panels, 16 fire extinguishers, 2 sets of miscellaneous spare parts, 1 generator, and 1 set of generator wheels. Other foundational UTCs would also get sent out first, like XFA-17, Water Distribution Initial, XFA-3C, Mobility Air Forces Initial, and XFA-LS, Self-Help Laundry, which includes 2 small shelters, 10 washers, 10 dryers, 4 water heaters, 4 fire extinguishers, and all the necessary plumbing and electrical supplies. But others are designed to augment the base kit and only go out when needed, like XFA-CW, which acts as a cold weather kit, including 12 130K heaters, 12 exhaust pipes, and 24 air ducts. Each individual BEAR resource is designed to be
They've literally got everything in, like everything you need to be prepared for any situation.
Assembled quickly. They're not for building a permanent airbase, therefore quickly cobbling one together when the need is most pressing. For example, the small shelter system is rated for 90-minute assembly by a team of 6. The massive cavernous large area maintenance
90-minute assembly
shelter can go up with 10 people in 30 hours, while the single pallet expeditionary kitchen can start cooking for hundreds after just 90 minutes of assembly by 4 people. By adding on more and more UTCs, the military can build out an airbase with functions like postal service, firefighting, chaplain services, water treatment, mortuary services, maintenance operations, and more within a matter of days. But the Air Force's advanced bases in a box are only one example of how the military prepares for transport constraints on the day a war breaks out. In order to project power, supply fighting forces in days rather than weeks, and rapidly set a theater, the US Army has stashed thousands of vehicles, weapons, and general supplies in 7 separate Army prepositioned stocks, or APSs, and these stocks are massive. Take, for example, APS-5, located at Camp Arifjan, Kuwait. Overseen by the 401st Army Field Support Brigade and a cog in American conflicts in the Middle East since the 1990s, the stockpile effectively allows the US to enter a regional battlefield in a matter of days and sustain the battle for a matter of months. One of the Army's largest physical operations, APS-5 stocks equipment for strategic abilities, reserve vehicles and munitions to replace those broken and consumed on the battlefront, and the supplies required to outfit an armored brigade combat team, an infantry brigade combat team, a sustainment brigade, a fires brigade, a medical support element set, and an army watercraft set. Effectively, $5.5 billion worth of materials just in brigade sets.
Which is one of the 7 large stockpiles. Bloody hell, man.
So much gear, the 401st Army Field Support Brigade's time is entirely occupied by the regular maintenance on the thousands of Abrams tanks, Bradley fighting vehicles, and the rest of the fleet stored in the 120-degree heat, along with testing and repairing weapons stashed in climate-controlled warehouses to ensure their effectiveness should the need arise. If something were to boil over in the Middle East, it's expected that APS-5 can mobilize an entire armored brigade combat team, a fighting force made up of 5,000 people, and a staggering 302 vehicles in just 96 hours. But the Army's APSs aren't only impressive in their sheer scale and organization. They're also impressive in their flexibility and adaptability, as one of their most
This is literally in the middle of nowhere, and it's just a flipping small strip of land.
critical preposition stock operations isn't even land-based. it floats.
Oh my
Bolstering
god.
APS-5 during
what?
Operation Iraqi Freedom and Operation Enduring Freedom in the 2000s, and increasingly visible in the Pacific today, is the Army's APS-3, an assortment of 10 to 16 cargo-carrying ships. At the core of APS-3 are two container ships, the MV Staff Sergeant Edward A. Carter Jr. and MV LTC John U.D. Page, and 5 large government-owned cargo ships with roll-on, roll-off capabilities that simplify onloading large, oversized vehicles and downloading in ports with limited infrastructure. While the size and organization of this fleet changes based on need and location, APS-3 carries much of what land-based pre-positioning stocks would. 20,000 tons of munitions are stored on container ships, and up to 2 brigades, or over 1,000 tracked and wheeled vehicles worth of combat equipment, are spread across the rest of the fleet. Yet, while the Army's floating pre-positioned stock proved invaluable in past conflicts and helps project power in the Pacific today, it's the outlier in terms of its mobility, as the Army has prioritized size in its pre-positioning strategy. The Navy, on the other hand, whose role in conflict is more expeditionary than sustained, has leaned heavily into the flexibility afforded by pre-positioning through floating stockpiles. The Navy's pre-positioning program is all about readiness, and to be closest to potential conflict zones, their 14 maritime pre-positioning ships are spread across 3 squadrons in the Mediterranean, the Indian Ocean, and the Western Pacific. Like the Army, the Navy relies on large, medium-speed roll-on, roll-off ships, and each of the 3 squadrons is designed to supply and sustain a Marine Expeditionary Brigade for 30 days, which is no small task considering its size as a 17,000-person unit with ground, sea, and air capabilities. In a service that's built around rapid response, this maritime pre-positioning force is able to mobilize at a moment's notice and provide supplies and operational support to amphibious units already on the ground, while also kitting out Marines and sailors being flown in from around the world. These capabilities are of increasing value to the DoD as modern warfare has pivoted away from massive ground wars, at the same time that the Pacific, with its tiny islands and massive expanses of open water.
What is this? Wait, what are these called again? Wait, I'm so confused. This is such a weird looking thing. What are they called? Oh my days, I forgot what they're called. It's like they've got like the air in these bits. Hovercrafts, I think? Maybe? I don't know.
Water has become an area of increasing concern.
What? So what? Is this for like plane or for helicopters to land on and stuff? Like, what is the use for something like this?
For the US. Pre-positioning is incredibly valuable to the Air Force, Army, and Navy for its ability to position each in remote battlefields quicker than any other fighting force. It's also incredibly valuable in what it doesn't do: necessitate the immediate mobilization of America's shipping power the second a conflict arises. This helps protect against, or at least soften a surge in Sealift demand when the US goes to war. But that only lasts so long. For longer, drawn-out conflicts, armed forces need Sealift to keep the supplies coming for months and years. This responsibility falls directly on the shoulders of US Transcom's Military Sealift Command. Of the roughly 120 vessels either owned or contracted by Sealift Command, these 32 provide direct fleet support for deployed Navy forces, whether it be tankers replenishing fuel reserves or cargo ships providing foodstuffs. Now, in the event that more vessels are needed in a shipping surge, Sealift Command will activate the 40-plus Ready Reserve Force, a collection of old government-owned ships sitting inactive across American ports, some of which are so old they're actually steam-powered. In addition to the emergency capacity available through the
ships,
RRF, the US military also has the Merchant Marine, a fleet of American-flagged private merchant ships that serve as auxiliary cargo and people-moving resources along commercial trade routes for the Navy during peacetime and war. And it's directly here where some of the most pressing limitations to the US military's transportation systems lie, in the inability to handle the surge and move major troop numbers and supplies far afield. Today, the ocean-going, privately owned merchant fleet in the US is only 181 ships, a far cry from the 565 in 1982. Though design advances have increased storage capacity, the available deadweight tonnage is only a fraction of what it was in the 80s and 90s. And making things worse, in a 2019 test of preparedness of the Ready Reserve Force, only 41% of the available Sealift capacity was actually ocean-ready. The expectation prior had been that some 85% of the vessels would be fit
less than
for
half
sea.
the amount.
But despite those challenges, the United States military is commonly and objectively recognized as the world's greatest fighting force, and while that does relate to its massive budget, global presence, and the actual skill of its fighting forces, Nothing can happen without the system that moves its people and equipment to where they're used. Logistics power is military power, and so it's no wonder why the US DoD has put so much funding and focus into its transportation system. It's a practical necessity during peacetime
What?
and the very foundation.
Wait, what? I've just watched a tank go into the water and it's now floating.
Why the US DoD has put so much funding and
Huh?
focus into its transportation system. It's a practical necessity during peacetime and the very foundation of American military power
What?
abroad.
Since when could tanks float? God damn, what an end to that. I just voice cracked. It was that good. But yeah, this is an interesting watch. Obviously, you learn about certain things, and a lot of these things I didn't even know what's going on, but still, the general sort of idea and sort of topic of the video is interesting. And I just find it crazy with all these bases around the world. And again, the bases that are like different city, like different US towns or cities in a country like Germany or a country like Uzbekistan or wherever it is. It's always quite wild to me. But hopefully you enjoyed this reaction. If you want some more Wendover videos for me to watch, let me know in the comments what you want me to see. And yeah, until next time, like, subscribe, peace.